Welcome back, guys. Here's the Insider Outsider podcast with your hosts, Ravinder, Chahal, and Ahmed. Well, one thing to notice, guys, is Ahmed is trying out a new headset. He's trying out a new issue or a new problem saver. So not an issue,
Yeah.
opposite of an issue. But his voice is very tiny, so he's gonna try to scream and get everybody in his house upset. So if he's getting yelled at in the background, please don't mind. But today, Ahmed, I've come to you with some news I've heard from the government of Alberta.
hmm
hmm
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Okay, well, pretty much. What if I told you that, Mark Carney yesterday announced four major new projects. None of them included Alberta, so Alberta's pipeline was definitely not one of them. However, I have some insider information that it's telling me that in by end of next week, we're gonna have another major project announced, and that's going to be a new pipeline. What would you say if I were to tell you this?
I would assume that it's inside of Canada. It's pipes from across provinces, right?
Pretty much. So
Is that?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a YouTube page that I don't think a lot of people are familiar with, but it's the YouTube channel for the Alberta government, and so it's called the government of Alberta. So if you search up on YouTube, they do live streams a couple times a week, just new policies and everything that they're going to be implementing ideas. And so Premier was talking, and so a reporter asked her a question, and I believe this was the Canadian press asked him the question, talk about pipelines, and she said she is very happy with the conversations with the prime minister at the moment. So she says there is a very high likelihood that something will be announced. What's that? Has something stuck in her teeth. I'm not sure what that is, but we'll worry about that later. But pretty much there's a big announcement going to be happening very soon if everything goes right. I believe that announcement will be a first across Canada type of pipeline, something to get more oil to the ocean so that we can actually sell it overseas. One thing, obviously, Mark Carney, and this would fit my narrative as well because Mark Carney did want to increase global trade. And when you have a product that the entire world consumes, would you not want to sell that product? I'm very certain they
Yeah.
would. Exactly, and Canadian oil and gas is the lifeblood of the country, and I do believe that they're going to be doing it at a very fast rate. So let's see if I'm right. Obviously, this is November 14th that we're posting this video, but let's see if my intuition is going to be correct, and we get the pipeline. What do you think about it?
I think it would be nice to see our resources being allocated correctly. And what I mean by that is like we should be strategizing, and these talks have really good value in the sense that if we can refine our own oil, which we've talked on earlier through earlier podcasts on, and then sell that to the public, it would reflect very positively for not only Alberta but Canada as a whole.
hmm Yeah, well, if you want to initiate trade, having like in all trades of history, right? The only time when you trade is worth of something of value, and so a lot of people need oil and gas. Oh, okay,
My bad.
all good, all
I
good.
just I'm concerned about the noise.
Oh, don't worry,
How
don't worry.
loud
It's pretty
Like you
bad,
were
but
saying,
don't worry.
carry on,
Carry
please,
on, please.
carry on.
So yeah, I think in every time of history, in order to increase global trade, you need to be producing something. And the thing is, oil and gas is like you have a currency that's accepted everywhere, and that's oil and gas. Because every country, there is no country
Petrodollar.
that's exactly there's no country that does not need oil and gas. And as people move away from Russian oil, although it's cheap, right? As people move away from Venezuela oil, the Canadian oil is the best place to get it. And so, if you can offer the world something cheaper and something better, then people will be more inclined to get it. And there's obvious reasons why the USA loves our oil. And one of the various reasons they love our oil is because they repackage our oil, fix it up into what they need, and then they sell it. And so just doing it ourselves, becoming the middleman of theirs, just adds a lot more jobs, adds a lot more plants
Would
that's
that
needing.
be would that be labeled as refining? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
real
In a sort of a refinement. Well, you have to refine the oil, right? You can sell crude
so
oil like we do.
Rev,
Mhm.
would you similarly hope like as would you want Alberta or Canada to, begin refining its own oil
I, I, th-
obviously?
I th- if you're a country, I was watching the Stephen Harper actually interview. Funny enough, today, okay, and so Stephen Harper actually said up until a couple of months ago, before when President Trump actually announced the initial tariff thing, he actually thought that this was a great idea for Alberta to even deepen its ties with the USA by exporting more and showcase the value there. Because one of the things that Canadians do lose is we lose money on the value of our oil because we sell it dirt cheap to the United States of America, right? And so I think we had a lot of playing cards there where we were able to refine our relationship with the USA. So as the rest of the world is suffering a little bit with tariffs, we would have been able to refine it. However, obviously things took a different turn, right? And that's not something that Stephen Harper nor our prime minister could have thought that was going to happen exactly in a moments of days, because it was a very quick flip. But the number one worst thing a country can do is be unreliant. Do you remember what happened during Russia's invasion of Ukraine? A lot of people forget that Germany had 6 nuclear power plants, and Germany did not want to use any nuclear power plants. They did not want to use any bad energy, so they decided the only place we were going to get their energy was from Russia. And what
Why do
happened
you always
was
highlight the bad energy?
exactly. But you think
What do you
Germany
mean? What do you
Germany
mean?
didn't want to Germany didn't
Nuclear
want to.
nuclear is bad?
No, nuclear is fantastic. Nuclear is some of the best.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Germany was trying to go all in on green.
The car that's a great topic to yeah.
Yes, and so
Okay, now I
but
understand.
exactly, and so not guys. If you guys don't understand, I'm the biggest component of nuclear energy. I love nuclear energy. I think that is the future. It will be the future. It's not. I think you just watch. You just wait and watch. Okay, but and if you think that you're waiting for a catastrophe to happen, please educate yourself, because it is there's so many facts against that. But I'm not going to go into that in this video. But yeah, so they wanted to go green, and what happened was, as soon as Russia invaded Ukraine, Germany's like on the other side, just like, oh wait, we want to put sanctions, but all of our energy, the only thing we can rely on is Russian energy. And that is the moment where Germany went to Canada and said, "Hey, we were begging for your oil, and we unfortunately at that moment in time chose to not export our oil to them, and we really failed at getting into those deep roots in that building that relationship with with Europe, and so we really messed up right there." But I always do believe that even if you mess up once, you can always fix that up again. So what did Germany have to start doing? They had to start reproducing and what? Funny enough, what the first plant of energy was? Coal.
What?
The worst of the worst thing that you could use. That's the only thing they had, because coal plants they had to just put them back online because they couldn't rely on any energy that they were getting from anywhere else, right? And but now they're
Yeah.
reopening their nuclear power plants, and that fixed it.
Is that worse of an emissions?
Coal,
Right?
yes, coal is the worst. Coal
Coal is
is
a
the
lot
worst.
worse.
Coal is the
Jeez.
absolute worst, right? But again, so the reason why I'm trying to bring this up is Canadian oil, especially in Western ideologies. Same thing with America. It's a necessity. It's a necessity that you need. But if you're not able to provide the necessity, people have to get their oil and gas from somewhere. Because, like I mentioned before, although people don't admit it, no matter if you're from Ottawa, no matter if you're from another part of the world that really loves green, I love green too, buddy. Trust me, Elon Musk, whose entire business model is on green energy, it tells us that we are unable to suffice ourselves based on our current solar panel capabilities. He knows himself that we need oil and gas. He's repeatedly said this multiple times. Trust me, a guy selling you EVs is not trying to sell you oil. He is trying to sell
He's
you
not.
batteries.
He's also he very clearly stated in one of the podcasts, and I think this would add more nuance to what Rev is saying. Um, that the problem is like the global warming issue and the argument of like let's reduce carbon emissions is not as valid in his opinion. He said that people say we have like 5 years before we hit like all the whole sea level rises and get the ozone layer dissolves. He
I
says we
find
have
that
more like
humans are very,
decades.
very wrong with their timing. I'm a big
Yeah,
component of not doing carbon emissions anyway, just because, in my opinion, it's not the greatest footprint you can have either way, right? Because you see a lot of people who argue against the fact of global warming as that the Earth naturally does this cycle, right? Whether it's true or not, us adding the Earth will do what it does. We don't need to add on to the problem. However, there's a lot of things that people will not understand. And so I'm going to give you my facts on oil and gas. And again, reason why Alberta oil and gas is fantastic. So firstly is this. There, if you're really worried about environmental factors, That's great. I'm happy. I'm really happy to hear that because guess what? We're living on this earth together. I rather not breathe in smoke. I rather breathe in fresh air. But you know about carbon capturing. Like there's actual fundamental way. Do you know what carbon capturing is?
Yeah.
Okay, carbon capturing eliminates almost 90% of the entire carbon emission that's going away. We need to invest in these technology, and these actually reproduce more oil and gas over the long term because we're pumping it right back into the ground. So ideas like this is these are the way that science should be. This is the way that we're directly going. We're not trying to find a way to eliminate a fuel source because we're still using coal. We need to find a way to make the fuel source even more effective, even more better, and even more health conscious, even better in every regard. And guess what? We're going to get there because one thing people don't understand is all of our machinery is based off oil and gas. To transform new technology where you're going to use solar panels, it's a completely revolutionary different industry. Just think about how long it took for EV cars to even get into the spotlight compared to gasoline cars and diesel cars. It's been night and day difference. And just like how you think about that, what do you think? What do you think equipment runs off? How do you think you have an electric rocket? Do you think you can be an electric rocket literally can't propel itself into the atmosphere? You can't do it. You need rocket fuel.
Is is there an actual like electric rocket? Because
No, there's nothing.
there's some creative people. I don't see it happening,
No, no, no.
but
It's not.
I wouldn't.
It's not. At this moment in time, it's a very like you have to propel something in order to go, and especially you have to propel something very powerful in order to get to atmosphere. That's why they use rocket fuel. That's why they don't use regular gasoline. It's not.
Yeah,
Do you understand?
electric rockets would make no sense. But
Well,
anyways,
exactly. So you will need a source of energy that is really combustible, really, really powerful in order to build, to get stuff into space. And future is obviously going to be space in a high regard. So almost any way you look at it, you're going to need oil and gas in some sort of the future. Whether it's not going to be majority of your reliance, which we should never do anyway. Like having a Type 1 civilization is having enough power or Type 2 civilization is being able to take all the energy from the sun, and that's what we need to get towards, right? Because there's more than
that's
enough
what Elon
energy.
loves.
Hmm?
That's what Elon wants. Elon wants
Yeah,
to push us in that direction.
exactly. And so Elon Musk comes into this topic a lot. But guys, you have to understand, like uh, this is the aspect. There are a lot of ways that you can use oil and gas effectively. So carbon capturing is one of them. So we could already eliminate a lot of the carbon that we're already going to be using just by implementing these new techniques. But the reason why this isn't being implemented is because it gets overshadowed by the force of just go 100%, 100% cut off oil and gas. And that does not work. Second thing is if you want to invest in infrastructure, the key word is invest. What do you need in order to invest on it? What do you need?
Capital and money.
Capital, exactly. So if I have a question, if I want to create great solar panels and I want to give great initiatives to entrepreneurs to create great solar panels, how do you think I give them in incentives? Money. How do you make money? Guess what? Oil and gas.
Economics, energy,
Exactly.
yes.
When you produce something that's going to produce you money, we have to take a portion of that money and then invest into future reliable technologies. We've talked again extensively on the Heritage Fund that Peter
Peter
Lougheed was
Lloyd.
so smart to do. But guys, understand, even he knew that eventually we need to take our reliance off of oil and gas. And this guy loved oil and gas. But one thing we have to remember is this is how we do it. We use our if everybody wants your gold, you know what you should do is sell your gold because you can sell it for a great price. Sell your oil, make money, use that money to rebuild the infrastructure into a better and more reproductive way for the future. That's how you have to do it. So those two key metrics single-handedly tell you why we need to invest into Alberta oil and gas because we do reinvest into carbon capturing, we do reinvest into renewables, and that's exactly what we have to do. But if you want to put away capital or even charge a carbon tax or putting a whole bunch of taxes that are going to go to waste, that you're not helping the problem. I truly believe that if we put our heads together, everybody, no matter if you're from different side of cat,
Hmm.
if you're from America, if you're from
Yeah.
Germany, you can realize that during war times, you're really never going to be asking the question of who has more solar panels. You're going to be asking on who has more barrels of oil. And if we can both come to that agreement, then we can both understand that what we need to do is use what we have, the resources we have, so that we can reinvest into our future. And that's what we need to do as a country. And so I hope people just understand that just a little bit. It just you have to reinvest but you need capital to reinvest. It doesn't come out of nowhere. And no entrepreneur, unless you're going to get paid for R&D, is going to spend decades of his life developing solar panels that are 1% more effective when he's just going to get completely destroyed.
When it comes to the on the macro level, you're solving a macro level problem. You would think that you can could have a closer look at the problem. But what you really need to do is zoom out,
Think what about?
and what you'll find, I'm trying to reiterate what you just said. Essentially, solve to make it super simple. Um, to solve the carbon emissions problem is a more nuanced problem. It's very, very built into our economies, and when you go to solve a problem, you need liquidity. You need to rely on
No, well,
economic
developing
factors.
soap, developing makeup, all this stuff requires oil and gas. Almost like literally to
Yeah, like
build to
the
get
the beauty
lithium,
industry, the
for
yeah,
your batteries. Remember how wait, I have a question for everybody who loves solar panels. Because again, I do too as well. It's fucking amazing device, but they're not crazy effective just yet. They are effective. I'm not saying they're not amazing, but they can be even better. But the only way you're gonna make them better is by reinvesting. But here's the question I have for you. Solar panels are useless unless you use the energy right away, except if you hold the energy. Ahmed, what holds energy? Uh,
lithium batteries.
Lithium batteries. How do you get lithium batteries, Ahmed? Do you know, or do you want to educate
You
our viewer?
use oil and gas.
You use oil and gas because you have to
You
dig it
gotta
out of the
drive
ground.
the truck that takes yeah, Rav, I think you mentioned something very important, and a lot of these people that are not as they don't have depth of perception. They think that if
They
they
look at it
buy
at a very nuanced level.
Tesla,
Uh-huh.
they buy the Tesla, that oh my God, I'm saving the environment. But the lithium, the carbon emissions required to mine the lithium and put it in the car in the first place.
Yeah, and
That's another.
let's not even do electric cars. Okay, let's not even do electric cars.
Solar panel,
What
whatever,
about
battery.
yeah, exactly. For your home, if you have solar panels, they're completely ineffective because if you're going, let's say you're going completely off the grid and you can only rely on solar panels. What do you do at night when you are not going to get any direct sunlight for you to power your home? And I'm not saying you're not going to get solar panels at night because you're still going to get some effectiveness. But even in the daytime, you're not going to get enough. If you turn on all the lights, everything's going to turn off at the same time. You need batteries because while you're not using electricity, your batteries store electricity to help in the times when you don't have electricity or you don't have solar panel direct access. Excuse me. So batteries are necessity for solar panels for renewable energy. Batteries are essential, even if you use wind turbines. How do you think that energy gets stored? Batteries. So guys, we can't forget that oil and gas will still be necessary. You have not, I think
And
Trump made a really
to be
funny remark that I loved, and he's like, but I don't know if this was true or not, but he's like, the fighter jets, they're trying to make them electrical fighter jets. He said whether it's an electrical fighter jet or a gasoline fighter jet or a rocket fuel fighter jet, they're still gonna. Nobody cares how you're killing somebody. You're killing somebody, right? And it's the same thing. You can try to use electric vehicles in order to mine this stuff, but it's not effective because they don't have the torque that's needed. That's why a lot of this stuff uses diesel. To dig really deep to get lithium, it's very, very difficult. You're not going to do that on a solar panel. I'm sorry to tell you. I'm sorry to explain that to you. But understand something. Every time we use the same gasoline trucks, the same gasoline drills to dig to build up more lithium, why do we do it? Why do we do it if it's not effective in fighting carbon emission? Because we're able to reinvest into better and better technologies. Wait till we get the solar panel that can be 100% effective. And now we don't even need every house can be off the grid because it can literally support itself. Man, that's amazing. But guess what? The only way you get there is by investing. I love your smile, by the way. It's beautiful. So I think you want to say something, so I'll let you speak.
uh, honestly, I hope to God I could, the viewer could hear me. Might be due to technical, difficulties that this mic is not working, but what Rav is bringing up is very relevant to what's happening today in the news. And Donald Trump literally ignored one of the meetings for carbon-related emissions, stuff like that. Like
I
when he
believe
met
so. Yeah, yeah,
Brazil, he just ignored it, and he's currently focused on their meeting in South Korea. Him and the Chinese leader Xi Jinping, I think. They're meeting in South Korea to reduce the tensions around tariffs. Basically, he understands the problem Rav is expressing. He's prioritizing economic, benefits. He could care less about carbon emissions.
yeah.
Those
If there's
problems are
truly
delusional
effective
problems.
ways, like entrepreneurs are smart. If there's truly effective ways that somebody's gonna make energy, they're gonna sell it. It's not like anybody wants to use gasoline. It's just what is the easiest necessity that can provide the most amount of people. We can't forget that oil and gas has helped us take the most amount of people out of poverty in all time. It's been the greatest invention of modern man, other than like obviously industrial works and stuff like that. But one thing we can relate to, guys, is like we talk about like I've heard this argument as well. Like this will be the last thing I want to mention on this topic, but I've heard the arguments that, oh, it doesn't matter how low Canada does in carbon emission because what is it? China doesn't care, and so does Taiwan doesn't care. Russia doesn't care. And the UAE does not care, right? They're going to be producing as much as they want. And I've heard people say yes, but we still should be limiting. And I agree with both. There's both points. There's very good points on both ends. But one thing you have to realize is this: China builds a lot of solar panels as well, and they still are crazy, crazy using oil and gas. But let me explain to you why it does matter if we don't use our oil and gas. I'll explain to you. The people who say, "Oh, it doesn't matter what China do, we can do it on ourselves," right? Like we can lower our emission cap at least. You're making a very bad argument because if you are able to provide China a technology that's so much more superior than oil and gas, do you know what China is gonna do? Buy it or try to use it or recreate it.
They haven't. They haven't. And
Exactly.
in earlier conversations that we had in prior years, I'll just mention this really quick and then carry on, please. They're really into nuclear energy, and they were the leader for quite a long time.
Yeah, well, they have so many nuclear power plants being presented, but that's what I'm saying is you clearly you see they've been reinvesting into their own infrastructure, and now they're leaders in nuclear. They're lead like if you seriously search out the world that's turning more electrical fastest is China. It is.
Hmm.
They have so many solar panels and everything. So you
I
keep
think it
hearing
was
about
2022.
uh
Uh, they they invented a new chemical or like something that's better than uranium
hmm
that had a better efficiency standard or whatever. And it was they were at that time in the lead. I'm not sure exactly, just so that we're being very straight with the viewer. They were back in 2022. I have some empiricism that suggests that they were the lead. This is a constantly changing landscape. America might be in the lead now. They have a lot of
I
smart
do believe
people.
American is the lead with SMR technology,
Nuclear?
which, yeah,
What's that?
but
Sorry,
like small modular
not
reactors,
that
like Oklo, for example, like the conversation we
interesting.
have with Oklo,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
the thing is they're still very well behind, right? Like America, and I'm talking about Canada as well. All the Americas together, we have some of the most brilliant people. We have the most migrated population, so we have smart people coming from everywhere who have technical
Hmm.
skills to develop extremely good technologies. And if you haven't noticed, China is a master of copying technologies, right? But if you let them keep
More like a
innovating,
master of no patents,
yeah,
but
exactly,
no down talk toward like
exactly.
China's great. Go China.
Go China. But but again, we need to take a textbook example from them because man, if they're innovating, because they're doing solar panels even better than Canada, they are. We don't even have like what nuclear power plants. How many nuclear power plants does Canada have? Not a lot. A
You
very
know,
very.
the longer we listen, the longer that we sit down and talk, the more I find you to have, you know, similar thoughts to Justin Trudeau. He's like, I would love this place to be communist. I like how China's run.
No, no, no.
So I don't
China's
know.
not
You
run
might.
well. You have to understand, right? The way
I'm just
to
kidding. This is all.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is
I know, I know. Of
just.
course,
Yeah.
the way to succeed in life is not by saying that one ideology is better. I always contradict everything that I know by always asking myself, what do I not know? So if a certain way, like this is how I think about it. China is very bad with how they treat a lot of their culture. And what I mean is immigrants. They have very very strict laws. They are very anti-business because they steal a lot of business, and they also don't take care of their people well. I don't like how people there are treated. People there like it's a very very bad place. I'll tell you somebody who lived in China, and he said in order to do anything, if you really want to do it, you need to bribe government officials. He said this, and this is six. He said he was. This is less than 6 years ago. Nothing has changed for him to get his passport thing during COVID. Let me explain to you. I'm just, again, no names are gonna be dropped, but my buddy, his wife was in the country, but she wasn't. She didn't have a work permit, right? So she was with him because he's his wife. But so she had to go back and to reapply and then to get the work permit to come. She could be approved instantly. However, when she goes back, because she's not in the country anymore, she can no longer enter because it's COVID time, it's lockdown. So she wasn't able to enter it back in. So they were in this impossible loop of what they were supposed to do. Guess what? His boss is just like, yo, I know this official guy. Go talk to this guy. The guy's like, yeah, if you give me I forgot how much money it was, but let's just say it's $2,000. It's all done.
Yeah.
That's it.
But here's the thing. I like your point. That is definitely
But
bad.
wait, I'm not
It's
done. I'm
not a
not done.
good.
So
But
I was just
in
stating.
retrospect to what?
But
In
here.
retrospect to
Okay,
what are you
now
comparing
now
China to?
that's what I
Because
want.
I
So,
think China's is a very well-oiled machine, in my opinion.
but here's now why. You also cannot take off the fact that it is the second most biggest economy in the world. And they weren't there just a decade ago. They weren't there 2 decades ago. So how did it reach it? And you have to look at what did they do right? What did we do wrong? Because there is so much stuff that Canada did do wrong. Even though we're capitalist or social capitalist,
Sadly,
however you want
I
to be.
genuinely don't think that Canada is actually at the table for this conversation. Someone to actually be at the table is the US.
Yes, but think of it like this. I'm trying again, like what I was trying to say is the reason why I always contradict everything that I always know is because I always want to figure out what I don't know. And there's so much bad stuff to look from China, but there's so much great stuff as well. How they're able
Yeah,
to
yeah.
initiative so well that they're able to do even greener stuff than Canada does. Canada was trying to be the leader in green technology, and somehow we didn't get there, even though we tried everything. But it's
I
because the
can't help it.
policies were
I
wrong.
really can't help it. I
Mm.
have some my perception of green energy is kind of influenced, and I don't think that
Yes,
with this
I definitely know
conversation.
your version of green energy is influenced.
Yeah, I actually am more in line with a U.S. president that's in the past. I think the first U.S. president, what was his name? If you could remember, I'm trying
I
to
know
look
about
up his
George
name right
Washington.
now. One of the early
Okay.
presidents, he said he was very observant of what the banks were doing and how they interacted with society. And you guys could look him up, read whatever he's written. I'm just gonna summarize and do my best.
Hmm.
Um, what I'm seeing is they're going to tokenize all assets, and that's a whole nother conversation. But one of the things that they're looking to tokenize is carbon. The carbon expenditures are going to be used to monitor governments and how they allocate towards a green agenda or how they might not. This is all part of a extravagant plan that's written in the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Just for those people looking for citations, go look at that book. The World Economic Forum, the head, has written that book. And what I see is that much like in history, you get um, a a control on narrative, and you abuse it in a way that you as a corrupt leader, you can use that and basically get people to conform through, make this planet better. They play games of morality when in
Hmm.
reality they're the ones exploiting the thing that they tell you to be moral on. For example, Bill Gates flies from town to town, uses a bunch of carbon, and what he preaches at each town is that you shouldn't use carbon. Um, we probably don't have enough time to go into depth into this,
Hmm.
but I really look at this with a different lens. And maybe it's biased, maybe it's not. Put it down in the comments
Hmm.
if you
Well,
guys
here,
agree.
think of it
But
like
I
this.
think,
The last thing I'd like to enter into the conversation with regards to what I'm trying to say is, I'll say one thing: bureaucracy. So, do you know one thing Canada was doing very wrong? Same with America. Same thing with everyone in the world. We are finally, I think, truthfully, everybody agrees. It's very funny that everybody agrees that bureaucracy needs to be taken out of the way because there's too many regulations. But guess what? China has was making it that there was very little regulations to begin with. So their outlook on how they were doing, or for example, building bridges. This was a great annotation from somebody who lived in China, a different friend of mine, but he was an engineer. So in China, the way that they engineer stuff is, if they have a bridge, okay, if they need to make a bridge, a lot of the people don't have the same. They have a lot of similar schooling, right? But they don't have as advanced schooling. But they're still very knowledgeable. They still have some really good schools, and so the engineers would make a bridge. That bridge would fall down from seeing what happened to that bridge, they would construct another bridge, seeing the problems, and would keep doing it. Other than in Canada or in America, first you have to write down the prints. You have to do this. 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 You have to do this.
mhm, mhm.
10 years later, you develop the bridge. China, they develop first, keep letting it fail, and now they have a fully prototype that has really worked, and then they implement it. I'm not saying one is right or wrong because you're using a lot of materials. You're putting stuff in jeopardy. You want to be making sure you're doing this at the most effective way. But I'm not
Pros and
saying.
cons to each methodology, yes.
Exactly. And so I can look at our country and say, I'm nationalist, we have done the best. Oh my god, nobody's better. But it's not true. The only
No.
the only citizen, it's not based on Canada. It's for the right of the citizen, for you, Ahmed, for me, for my mother, for my father, for my brothers and sisters, for anybody watching this video, the right thing to do for you is allowing us to have the best quality of life from every aspect. So we learn from who is doing it correct, and we learn also from who did it wrong, including ourselves. And so what we need to do is not be like China, because in China, freedom of speech is a very, very little thing. One of the most important fundamental human rights in the entire history of humanity, and safety and security. But what we need to do is we need to
Rav,
understand.
I'm gonna clarify this,
Uh-huh.
and I'm just gonna put it out there. When someone says I'm gonna make a platform called Truth Social,
Hmm.
and you can say whatever you want, it appears to be a freedom of speech, but it's not a freedom of speech. People need to know that when you criticize someone that truly rules over you, you don't get away without any consequences. And I think within the relevant news, as in I'd say a month or a couple months ago, someone had said something and got in trouble. So when you're playing the true comparison game, and I would like to recenter our conversation over and over again to ensure that we're very empirical.
Uh-huh.
China and America both have a lot of pros and
And
cons.
yes, and I don't disagree with you, right? Even with Elon Musk, I believe a reporter came out with it. Even after he took over Twitter and he turned it to X, there was a lot more freedom of speech. But even in Elon
No,
Musk's own
I
terms, I
disagree.
believe, I agree. There's a lot more. I don't think there's.
It's a perceived freedom of
Okay,
speech.
can I
That's
ask
all
you a
I'm gonna
question?
say. Yeah,
What social platform has more likelihood of being freedom of speech than X?
um, I think that with it genuinely, when you go to its root, it's not about freedom of speech. It's narrative control.
Okay,
They,
but
they
I disagree.
listen,
So
listen.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell.
Roman Empire,
Uh-huh.
no, Roman Empire.
Mhm.
They had to ensure that the public understood a reality, and that they understood a different reality.
But
And
I'll
I'll tell
explain
you
this. I'll
what I
explain
mean
this.
by that.
From the left and the
They
right, from
have to
both people
they
that I
have to let
follow.
you. You know what leads a revolution?
Here. Let me let
What happened?
before we dive, because this is a completely separate topic. I just want to know
Yeah, it is.
what,
Definitely is.
yeah, what is the best platform for freedom of speech? And I will argue it again. It's X. On X, on any platform,
No.
you whatever you watch, whatever you do, you get a lot of it, and you don't see a lot of other stuff. On X, I've seen people from the left, I've seen people to the right, a lot. People I look up to, people I read, I see people commenting, I see people uncommenting, I see a tremendous amount of things. You could say some of them are bots, but I'm talking about
It's
real
irrelevant.
people who know. No, I never get censored to what I'm
I'm
about to
so
see.
sorry. I value what you have to say,
Uh-huh. But then I'll
but
ask you a question. But
even
again,
the basis
answer
of your
answer the
question,
question. But answer
the
the
basis.
question.
I'll answer
No,
your. I'll answer your
what
question. I'll answer it.
platform has more
I
freedom of
hear you.
speech than that? What platform?
I get you. Here's the problem. When you frame the question
Hmm.
at a pre-existing, I can't. There's like a logical fallacy where freedom of speech itself is not a platform.
Okay, okay,
It's
but
not
that's
based on its
going
platform.
into nuance on what freedom of speech is. I'm talking to you about
Yeah.
your freedom of your opinion. Let's face it,
Yeah.
freedom of opinion. What application allows more freedom of opinion than any other platform in the world? And if you argue X, I'm sorry, you're very misinformed.
Any any platform
You think
has rules and regulations
yes,
for what is said on there.
yes,
You
but
have to go with the
I'm
nuanced
telling you,
understanding of
I'm asking
freedom
you,
of speech to address the question.
I'm asking you, which platform allows both sides to speak freely without having issues, or the least amount of issues? I'm not saying that they don't have a narrative. I was actually going to say my next thing, if once we were done this conversation, was I was going to tell
You're
you.
right, but it's
Rem-
negligible. You know why?
no, not negligible. I'll explain. But
It
Ahmed,
is.
let
It
me
is.
speak first. Let me
X
speak. Let
is
me speak.
your
Wait,
turn.
wait. Let me speak, because
I'll
you
answer your
keep
question when you
going
speak.
different
I'll
directions
answer your
today.
question when you speak. Wait,
Okay,
wait, wait.
okay.
I
Answer.
agree that the most freedom of speech, freedom can be X.
Hmm.
Sure. But it's negligible. It's not the
Okay.
real freedom of
See,
speech.
but that's your own opinion, though. That's not legit. That's your own
Yeah.
opinion.
These are
Yeah.
opinion. These are all
Yeah,
opinions.
yeah, but but I asked you a nuanced question, which was which platform had the most, and you said you disagree. But then now you said it is, but it doesn't
Why
matter.
why would I present?
Uh huh.
Why would I
If
answer the
somebody were
question?
to ask you, Ahmed,
It's all vector
which
related.
website should I go if I want
What
to
I mean
look
by
at
that.
everybody's opinion fairly, or as fair as you can be? Your answer right now is nothing. My answer is I
Yeah.
have an answer for you. I'm saying that it's the
Yeah.
best of what we have. You
Yeah,
could
it is.
yeah,
It is.
but
But
that's
it's a
all.
10% efficacy.
So
It's a
that's better
10%
than
efficacy
zero. That's
standard.
better than zero. Ahmed,
Sure.
let me tell you this. On
Sure.
X, X has a version of
Yes,
Grok. Do you know
that's
how to
correct.
use Grok on X? You can ask Grok.
Yeah.
Elon Musk said something. Grok himself corrected it. So his own platform corrected the same dude who owns the platform. But I'm not saying that this is all done because a reporter came out that when they were looking at Elon Musk files, there were people who Elon Musk had personal beef with who did get some sort of censorship. So that's what I was related to when I was talking about the reporter. I'm not saying this bad, but on Twitter, you cannot trust Twitter. I'm sorry, not Twitter. Instagram. Instagram is very, very high. Instagram is pretty much nothing. What is it? Threads, I don't even use threads. Facebook is completely narrative driven. Whatever you truly believe, you'll never see a different opinion on it. Or it's just bots. So you can have Snapchat. Snapchat's nothing either. That's more of a social platform for yourself. But there's no other platform. Maybe you have Reddit, but Reddit is full of bots. And that just push one single narrative out there. So it's very difficult for you to get any nuanced opinion. But on X, if I click Elon Musk tweet, I can see everybody who is disagreeing with him. I can see their arguments in a thread. And that makes it the most easiest way for me to get some sort of information on what is correct or is incorrect. And
Sure.
yeah, that's the way I see it. You may see it another way.
Right now.
I understand. But
But
if we're talking about.
when you're accurately describing
Mhm,
the situation in China, in retrospect in
mhm,
America,
mhm.
and suggesting that America has a higher freedom of speech,
Yes.
you're within your perception, sure, but when it
No,
comes to
not in my
empiricism,
perspective.
it's not
Ahmed,
true.
you don't live in
No,
China. I know people who have lived in China and live here. They will tell you
I don't
otherwise. They
I
will
don't
tell
live in
you
China,
otherwise. Every single one of
but
them
I
will tell you otherwise.
definitely have a more nuanced explanation that would take quite a long time to explain. And just to
Ahmed,
put something out there,
I have never disagreed with you harder.
if any of you have any sort of pattern recognition, you go back to this video, you remember what I'm about to say, and you're gonna see X.com,
Hmm.
Twitter, or whatever it's called, Truth Social. It will turn into a payment digital ID platform similar to
Yeah,
what China
that
has.
I understand where you're going with that, but Ahmed, that's
No,
completely different from what we're
when
talking about.
when you're when you're trying to make a discernment on what the true intentions are behind the leadership of X and what they
Sorry,
truly
I'm
stand
having a
for,
random call that I'm trying to deny, but it's
I
not denying.
I cannot I can't but speak what I genuinely feel, and maybe I'm wrong, but I have a strong belief, and it's not a belief on speculation. It's a belief on empiricism. Elon Musk has went on podcasts and suggested that he is developing a payments platform.
Hmm.
And the way that you get your best interest, being Elon Musk, the way you work within your best interest is you depict X as Truth Social. You depict X as a democratic, um, democratically generated consensus on freedom of speech, when in reality, empiricism, and this is this is the whole thesis, it's perceived freedom of speech. It's not freedom. For example, the stock market is perceived as being a place where you could compete equally with everyone else, but you would have to be very, very dull, not very sharp, to not acknowledge people like Nancy Pelosi who fucking work within the stock. They have an edge and they work together, and it's outlined in game theory. This is not something I made up. Game theory suggests that when you generate groups and
Hmm.
you start to conspire with others, Nancy Pelosi genuinely is conspiring with and that's why she has insider information. She's not working within the best interest of people participating in the fair markets. She's working within her own best interest.
Hmm.
Similarly, Elon Musk will follow the same pattern.
Hmm.
Although I seem very, very opinionated, or what I try and make this as close to empiricism as I can. If you guys want to look at this in retrospect in the future, Elon Musk, in my opinion, and this is I'm gonna throw a dart.
Yeah, he's trying to create a super app. I don't disagree with that either, but that's a completely different notion. You said a statement that the USA is as bad as China in terms
It's worse.
of freedom of speech.
It's worse.
See, that's we'll debate
It's
this next
worse.
time because we're at 40 minutes
No,
now.
no, yeah, yeah, but obviously with certain things on the small level, sure, face value, but when you go deep enough, you go nuanced, a lot of vectors stack up, and you get the direct empiricism. It's a false sense of security. New York, and this is something that's mentioned online several times. Look this up if you guys are keen on looking at this. New York is a prison where the citizen is the guard and the prisoner simultaneously.
Mhm. All right,
You
well,
heard of
we'll cut it
this?
off there because we will disagree with this for hours. But yeah,
This
thank you
is
very
just
much
an
for tuning in.
opinion, no
Yeah, yeah, of
financial
course.
advice.
No, no, no. That's why we bring this up because it's a fascinating
Yeah.
topic to think about. But I disagree with you on that, Ahmed. But we will debate that on the next episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Today was a fantastic episode. I really want to thank my co-star Ahmed. I know you're. We'll work on the video quality and the audio quality, but I think
Yeah.
we're getting very solid at having these conversations.
Let's.
So,
I gotta leave off with one statement.
stay.
There's in theory and practice,
Mm-hmm.
and the if you were to go to Truth Social or whatever the fuck you want to do and practice your freedom of speech, I think your neck would blow up with like a bullet. I'm just putting out there. No violence intended. Just hopefully you could pick that up. Yeah. Thank you
Awesome.
guys.
All right.
Subscribe to
Well,
the
guys,
channel.
subscribe to the channel indeed. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Bye
Fuck.
bye.
My neck.